In Lesson 5.2, you will be solving inequalities by multiplying and dividing. We're going to start out by just looking at some simple inequalities. 4 is greater than 2. If I take and multiply both sides by 3, I get 12 is greater than 6, which is a true statement. Now if I take the inequality 7 is less than 9 and multiply both sides by a negative 2, I end up with a negative 14 and a negative 18. But the symbol is going to need to be flipped around because negative 14 is actually greater than negative 18 because it is further to the right on a number line. You'll want to make sure to put in your notes that when you multiply or divide by a negative when you're solving inequalities, you must flip the inequality symbol around. I showed you why this is true with multiplying, but you could try this same idea with division and you would see that the same thing would happen. If you multiply or divide by a negative, you have to take the inequality symbol and flip it around. The first example is a word problem. Of the students surveyed at Madison High School, fewer than 84 said that they had never purchased an item online. This is about 1/8 of those surveyed. How many students were surveyed? I would start out by defining your variable. The first thing I would do is say S is going to be the number of students surveyed, because it says how many students were surveyed. That's what we don't know, so that's my variable. Now if we go back to write our inequality, it says this is about 1/8 of those surveyed. So 1/8 of those surveyed would look like this. Of in math leads us to multiplication, so 1/8 times the number of people surveyed has to be fewer than 84, so less than 84. Now to solve this inequality, you would want to multiply both sides by 8. Remember, when you have a fraction as your coefficient of the variable, you can multiply by the reciprocal to eliminate the fraction. So 8 times 1/8, S is just S. I've multiplied by a positive, so I'm going to leave the symbol as is. And now I'm going to do 84 times 8. 84 times 8 is 672. The number of students surveyed had to be less than 672. In example 2, we're going to solve by multiplying. Again, when you have a fraction next to a variable, you want to multiply by the reciprocal, so you end up with 1r instead of a negative 3/7 r. So the reciprocal of negative 3/7 is negative 7/3. So I'm going to take and multiply both sides by negative 7/3. I want to multiply by a negative 7/3 instead of a positive because our goal is to get a positive r, and a negative times a negative is positive. So if I multiply by the left by negative 7/3, I have to multiply the right by negative 7/3. Over on the left-hand side, these things will cancel and we'll be left with just r. On the other side, when I multiply a positive times a negative, it's going to be negative. And then 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 21 7 times. 7 times 7 is 49. And this time, since we multiplied by a negative 7/3, since the work we did on the problem was multiplying by a negative 7/3, that means we're going to flip the inequality symbol around. So it's, instead of being less than, it's going to be greater than. Now if you wanted to check this, you could choose a number that's greater than negative 49, plug it in and see if it works. Well, I'm going to just use 0 because that's an easy one and it's greater than negative 49. If If I plug in 0 for r, negative 3/7 times 0 is 0, and 0 is less than 21. So I think we're on to the right thing there. You may want to pause the video and try the next couple on your own. Negative n divided by 6 is less than or equal to 8. Instead of dividing by 6, you're going to want to multiply by 6, but we're going to want to actually multiply by a negative 6. Since this here is negative, we want it to end up being positive, so we're going to multiply by a negative 6. Remember, when you have a fraction, that negative sign can either be with the numerator or with the denominator or written in the middle. As long as there's only one negative sign in the fraction, it has a negative value, and we want it to be positive, so we're going to multiply by negative 6 on both sides. What's going to happen over here is our 6's are going to cancel and become 1's, and a negative times a negative is positive. So we have a positive n, and on the other side, 8 times a negative 6 is a negative 48. And since we multiplied by a negative 6, we're going to take the inequality symbol and flip it around. The solution is n is greater than or equal to negative 48. Or if you write it in set builder notation, it would look like this. That would be kind of the fancy Nancy way of doing it. Again, if you wanted to check it, you could test a point that is greater than or equal to negative 48 and plug it into there and see if it works out. Next, 1/5 m is greater than or equal to negative 3. We're going to multiply both sides by 5. The reciprocal of 1/5 is 5. And then on the left side, 1/5 times 5 is just 1, and 1 times m is m. On the left side, or on the right side, negative 3 times 5 is negative 15. And then do you want to flip the symbol on this one or not? The correct answer is you are going to leave it. Now, sometimes kids automatically assume that because they see this negative and we multiplied, that they're going to flip the symbol. But what you really want to focus on is not what the problem was, but what the work is that you did to solve the problem. We multiplied by a positive 5 on both sides. Since we multiplied both sides by a positive 5, we don't flip the symbol. All right, the last type we have are division inequalities, or solving multiplication inequalities by using division, I should say. 60t is greater than 8. You undo the multiplying by 60 by dividing by 60. Oh shoot, I got the magic pen. I got to get rid of that magic pen. You're going to divide both sides by the coefficient of the variable. So we're going to divide by 60. So you're going to end up with 60 divided by 60, which is 1, and 1 times t is t. Since I divided by a positive, I keep the symbol the same, and now I have to do 8 divided by 60. 8 divided by 60 is 0.13, and the 3 repeats. You may want to pause the video and try the next couple on your own. To solve this one, to undo the multiplying by 6, you would divide by 6. Negative 42 divided by 6 is negative 7. And 6 divided by 6 is 1. 1 times r is r. And are we going to flip the symbol on this one? Nope, we're not going to, because we divided by a positive 6. Now when we write this, it's good to have the variable on the left. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in that fancy set builder notation. all real numbers are such that r is less than -7. Remember, when you switch it around, it should still say the same thing. It's still pointing at the r and opening to the -7. Last example. To undo the multiplying by -12, you would divide by -12 on both sides. You end up with h, and on this side, 15 divided by -12. 15 divided by -12 is -1 1/4, or -1 and 25 hundredths. And would we flip it this time? You betcha we would flip it, because we divided by a -12. Now, in the fancy set builder notation, all real numbers h such that h is less than -1 1/4.